what's up? It is teacher Mike here, and if you don't know me, I'm one of the teachers and the founder of ExpressPrep.ca, where we help immigrants like you become residents in Canada by improving your score and, of course, improving your English. Now, on today's video, I'm going to do something that you guys have been asking me for a very long time, which is to finally give you guys all the best secrets to take notes on listening task 6. So, let's get into this. All right, so on this video here, we're going to do a few things. First, I'm going to explain to you what you are going to see, what you're going to listen during task number 6 of the listening test. After this, very quickly, I'll go with you through my special technique that I've developed that I share with all of my students in our courses and mentorships that helps you understand what types of questions are going to show up during the listening part, and more importantly, how can you know the questions that are gonna show up before they show up? It's like you're walking into the CELPIP test and you have the answers with you under your arm and you're taking them with you to do the test. It's a very special trick I'm gonna share with you. And lastly, at the end of this video, I'll go step by step on how we take notes during task number 6, because it's one of the parts where it's very important. So let's get started. First things first, what is the most important thing that you need to know about the task number 6 of listening? So the most important thing that you need to know first is that you are going to be evaluated on your ability to listen to different opinions around a topic. Now, what is the most important thing to understand in task 6 is that usually we are going to have 3 opinions about some specific topic, but what you need to understand is that there's only one speaker. So if there is only one speaker, it's very important that we are able to understand what this one speaker is explaining to us about a specific topic. To give you a clear example, imagine that we are listening to one person explaining to us about the importance of public transportation in Canada. So this one speaker is going to talk about public transportation. As this one speaker talks about public transportation, he's going to give us opinions. Now, here's the most important part. Usually, he's going to give us 3. Usually, the magic number is 3. It doesn't need to happen every time. He's going to give us 3 opinions about that topic. So it's going to say, well, the government thinks this one person thinks this, and the driver of the bus thinks this. And then you, at the end of the listening, you're going to have to answer questions that not only are about the main topic, public transportation, but are also about what the driver thinks, what the government thinks, what this person thinks. So that's what CELPIP likes to do here. They will present you with one topic, but they will give you different opinions about that one topic. Now, that is the most common scenario. It is not the only scenario, but of course, we don't have time to go into all these different scenarios here today. But with these 7 steps of listening, you will actually be able to understand, and actually what I like to teach you guys is that with the 7 steps of listening, the key thing that I want to teach you is that you're able to predict the questions. This is what I always tell my students, is that, if you're studying with me, maybe you're watching this video and you are already one of my students, when you are in one of our lessons, you know that I always talk about this. I say, guys, learning this, it's almost like you're going into the real CELPIP test with the answers beforehand. Like, you know already the answers, because this trick is so important and it's going to help you understand exactly what the CELPIP test really wants when you get to this part of the test. So the most important thing here is that you guys are going to learn what I call the 7 steps of listening. So the 7 steps of listening, it's something that I've been teaching for a very long time. I also call them the 7 secrets of listening. And it's basically 7 steps that you are going to follow for task number 6. Now, of course, guys, there are 7 steps for task 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. I'm only going to show you step number 6, of course, for part number 6. But of course, if you are my student, you're going to learn every single one of them in much more detail than what I can share with you here. But basically, what are the 7 steps of listening? The 7 steps of listening are based on the most common number of questions that we see on the CELPIP test, and based on the number of exams that we've seen, what are the most common types of questions that examiners like to ask? In listening number 6, because that's what we're doing today, the first question is always going to be something around the main topic. What is this about? What is this listening about? So immediately, when you start listening number 6, you got to identify the main topic. So step number 1 is you identify the main topic. Once you identify the main topic, you may or may not be able to identify names. As the information about the main topic starts, you should be able to, as you listen to it, identify different names of people. Once you listen to a name, and more importantly, once you listen to a name and that name comes with an opinion, that's why step 3 is opinions, you will be able to know that this question is going to show up. As soon as you listen to some name and some opinion together, that will be part of a question when you get to the questions part. So, names and opinions. Opinions means being able to identify opinions. I'm going to go deeper into this in a second when I teach you guys how to take notes. During the listening, you are going to be able to listen to how those different people that have different opinions feel about something. So on the example I gave you guys in this video, it was about public transportation. Maybe the bus driver will say that he thinks he's working too hard, but he's not making enough money. That is a feeling. Very commonly, the CELPIP test will give you feelings on reported speech. So what does that mean? What it means that they're going to give you feelings on reported speech. It means that they're going to use a specific grammar part of reported speech to give you how people feel. So they're never going to give you a direct quote of the driver. What you are going to listen to is a reported speech of the driver. So something such as, the driver believes that he isn't well paid enough, blah, 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 blah. As soon as you listen to reported speech, which, by the way, if you don't know what reported speech is, you're gonna have to learn it. That's why we teach it out to all of our students. You are going to know for a fact that as soon as you listen to reported speech, you know that you have a very high chance of getting a question about that feeling. Step number 5, times and dates. Times and dates basically means knowing when something happened, recent, long time ago. There are some important details about times and dates. There are many things I have to talk to you about it so you learn exactly what it means, but basically, you don't need to memorize a specific day, month, year. When you listen to it, you can almost ignore it as long as you are able to know, is it recent? Is it a long time ago? How close this is? So a few weeks ago, a year ago, 2 years ago, that's important to know, but in general, you don't have to remember a specific date, such as 14th of the month of April of 1984. Step number 6, emphasis on details and descriptions. This is a tricky one. When I'm teaching this to our students, we actually spend a lot of time understanding this, but I'm gonna give you the best explanation in a few seconds. Emphasis on details and descriptions, it means that when you are doing listening task 6, you're going to be listening to a lot of information, and a lot of that information can be complicated and difficult. This is done to separate people that are going to achieve a level 7 and a level 12, right? The people that are going to achieve a level 7 on the CELPIP listening, they're going to get worried and anxious when all that information comes up. Now, in general, the examiners are not so picky with you. They're not going to give you super difficult questions about a very specific part of the listening. That's not what they like to do. They're going to give you a lot of information, but the questions are going to be only about important parts of the listening. So as soon as you listen to a detail that doesn't seem very important, it usually isn't. Now, of course, that requires practice to understand, but the best way to practice is by having practice tests. Now, once you understand this concept of step number 6, it gets easier because when you listen to some type of description, you can identify if that description is important or not important. So if we are talking about public transportation, maybe they are describing a specific transit line that takes too long. So they're gonna say something like, this transit line takes 45 minutes to go from Jane Station to Finch Station. This will never be a question on the CELPIP test. They're never gonna ask you, how long does it take to go from Jane to Finch? And the answer is 45 minutes. This will not happen on CELPIP. But what they can say is, what is true about the line from Jane to Finch? And the answer is gonna be something like, it takes very long. That is the trick of CELPIP. If I understand that a description is not something I have to fully memorize, but I just have to understand the idea, I get much better at understanding which parts of the CELPIP listening are important and which parts aren't important. It makes it so much easier to actually be able to predict the question. I listen to the listening and I'm able to say, this is important, this isn't important. So now I know what's gonna be a question. And when I look at the questions, I'm able to say, hey, I remember this because I paid attention to the right things. It's amazing. Step number 7 is future outcomes. This one is beautiful because usually towards the end of the listening task 6, they're going to talk about what's gonna happen next. The government will meet about the public transportation system next month. Perfect. As soon as you listen to this, that's gonna be a question, all right? So there's gonna be a question about a future part of the listening task 6, all right? So now that you know this, very quickly, how would we take notes? We would take notes exactly as we did in task 5. If you haven't watched my video, go back to watch that video after this one, which is listening task 5. I'm gonna put it up here. I'm also gonna put it in the description of this video here. So the way we take notes in listening task 5 is we make this table, and on this table, we put the names of the people in listening task 5. What is the difference from 5 to 6? Is that I don't know the names of the people immediately. So what's gonna happen here is that as I'm going through my listening task 6, I'm going to fish for names that I can put here as people that have opinions. So for example, if they give me a name such as Kevin, and Kevin is a bus driver, that's what I'm gonna take notes. And then I'm going to be listening to what Kevin says. Oh, Kevin believes that he's not happy with his work, blah, 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 blah. So then I'm gonna take all my notes, not happy, doesn't like his money. And for more information about these symbols here, I really want you to watch my video on task 5 because we use the same symbols, we use the same technique here. The difference about task 6 to 5 is that the way I take notes has to be as I'm listening, because I don't know if the test is going to tell me 1 name, 2 names, 3 names, and I don't know if it's just gonna be names. Because what the CELPIP test loves to do here is that they love to give me a name, and then they like to give me like a large group of people. So for example, the government of Canada. And then when they say, oh, the government of Canada, they're gonna start giving me what the government of Canada thinks. So as I listen to my listening task 6, I have to be paying attention to the names or institutions or large groups of people that are going to have opinions about our main topic. That's why, if we go back to our 7 steps here, that's why main topic is step number 1. If I understand the main topic, I can now start listening to what people think about that main topic. And as the listening progresses, I'm able to fish for a name and then opinion, a name and then opinion, a name and an opinion. Usually, guys, pay close attention to this. When I say the word usually, it's usually, not always. So when you become my student, we go through different scenarios, we go through deeper and more important things, but I'm teaching you guys here in 15 minutes. Usually, you are going to have 3 different names. You're gonna have like a name here, a name here, a name here, and it's gonna be very easy to take notes. But there are some tests that are harder than others. Sometimes they give you only 1 name, and they give you other things, other institutions. Sometimes they only have 1 person's opinion about something, and that's all you have to pay attention to. So task 6 is a very tricky part of the CELPIP listening test. It is where students are going to make most of the mistakes, and that's totally okay. By the way, the most important thing that you need to know about getting a good score on listening part of the CELPIP test is not just learning task 6. Actually, you need to learn the 7 steps for all of the parts of the test. And more importantly, not only you need to learn the 7 steps for listening task 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you actually have to learn the right strategy so that you can actually make mistakes on task 6. That's what I teach my students. I don't teach them to have a perfect score in task 6 because that's harder. I teach them that with the right strategy, we are gonna know the answers to the easier questions, and we're gonna make mistakes on the harder questions. And if I do this correctly, I'm easily gonna get a 9 and 10, you know, just like the students that I usually share with you guys on my Instagram, and you see them all the time, especially if you follow me. Now, I hope you loved this video as much as I did. I love teaching this to you guys. It's impossible to teach you everything, but if you wanna get my personal help so that I can coach you, give you feedback, and you can have access to my number of tests and our test simulator, all you have to do is go in the description of this video and talk to one of our students' advisors, and we're gonna help you. We're gonna teach you the right strategy for listening, reading, writing, and speaking. You're gonna have access to our test simulator. We're even gonna give you feedback on writing and speaking, and we are going to guarantee your score. The link is in the description so that you can have all the information. Now, if you've loved this video as much as I did, please leave a like and subscribe, and tell me in the comments, what is the most difficult part for you during listening? Which part is it? Tell me so that I can learn and that I can make a video for you guys, just as I did this one. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you next time. Teacher Mike out, and I'll see you in the next video.